It is what it is. But man, it's great to meet you. I want to begin our conversation with, 4 years ago, we were wrapping our heads around this pandemic. How did you make it through the pandemic and how did it change you?
I mean, this. I mean, we literally can talk about this for hours.
Right.
Okay. Which side of life?
Oh, I guess the Venn diagram bleeds into itself, but just kind of in general, like how it affected the way that you just did your life, did your thing.
I mean, it's so funny. So again, I document a lot on social media, right?
Yeah.
And by fluke, I went back, I don't know, like a couple of weeks ago, and I realized I had like again posted on stories enough during those first few months or for first few days and weeks of March, right? Where it was like unbelievable. And then Tom Hanks got it. And then it
Yeah.
was like I was at my favorite restaurant, in Seattle, and like people were coming in, they just, from other restaurants and bars, and like we just got let go for like the next few months. And like people were crying, and it was just like, guy, I was, at that moment, at that particular moment, you can see my reaction is like almost like smiling in the sense of like, guys, this is a snowstorm. Like, relax. It's not going to last more than the weekend. You know what I mean? Like, it's, and I was just consistently wrong. And, again, one of the videos, I think, so that was March, April, May, right around May-ish, beginning of May, that was like when people are like, again, everyone's locked in, at least in Seattle specifically. It was like pass a shot around, pass 5 push-ups around, and I'm like, I don't want to drink anymore. Like, this is like, I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
I like, as Seattle's biggest fanboy, was like, I had to get out. Like, because again, we're in a condo. And again, when the city is a city and it's vibrant and it's pulsing and there's a million things going on, you know, and that's all gone, it was like, what are we doing here? And so it started to rewrite all the rules. One of the rules prior to the pandemic, all of our employees required to be in the office. Like, don't care. Like, there was no way I would fly home early from trips to do deals because I had to be in front of this desktop setup. Da, 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 da. Like, I had to be, and right now I'm in DevHub HQ. Anyway, that's all gone. We bought a company in New York, so we're totally remote. We ended up as personally, purchasing a property in Arizona. So we started splitting our time. And then, we never really, had kids. Uh, and so we're a little bit more, I would say, transient in, our comings and goings. And, you know, it, it was a boom for our company, right? Another aspect that it changed was it gave us confidence in what it is that our company, this is 17 years here,
Yeah.
right? And it was, well, what changed? I'm like, the pandemic. Like, what do you mean? It's like it gave us confidence in the software that we were selling and how valuable it was to the brands we were selling it to. And it was just like it just rewrote everything.
Yeah.
The pandemic changed, and it still changed everything. It's
Yeah.
still like, again, we're in a Class A office building. I hate to say this to your audience, which feels maybe a little bit more classy. Like, I can literally, do number one, come back, and that toilet's still not flushed.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's no one in this building,
Yeah. Right.
and so it's just, I don't know. It's sometimes it's very heavy for me. Other times it's wildly optimistic that, oh my God, now I can do anything in the world I want
Yeah.
to do. Like,
Yeah.
all the rules that I thought existed, and how confident I was going to work every day, and like all of that's gone because it's just still gone. And
Yeah.
so, like, how do you want to show up every day now is a totally different than it was, pre-pandemic. And
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
that
again, real quick, one more last thing, just
yeah, sure.
I'm curious, more like ask you is, I've been watching some of these commencement speeches, and I guess these are the first few classes that, are graduating, who had their last high school year, or even I guess their first few years of college disrupted and graduating. And every one of these commencement speech brings it up. I was just at a conference in wherever the hell I was. Oh, Chicago. Everyone's bringing up what it did for, the specific franchises and health brand. I mean, anyway, just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a
what a loaded question for you to start with, huh?
right. Well, yeah, I
Like
hit
going
the
to the softball, like yeah. I'm just like I'm the pandemic. Like, wow, she blasted me in the face.
right. I hit the ground running. That's for sure. So I wanted to make sure that we were staying cautiously optimistic. So
Yeah.
let's get to the heart and soul of what you do every day for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day, and one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that
Uh,
child?
uh, uh, CEO of a tech company based in Seattle, Washington. And what the tech does, it is websites for really famous brands. So any famous brand that you land on, Saks Fifth Avenue, that's powered by DevHub. Just
What did
over
you?
282 brands, over a million websites.
Okay. So what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream?
CEO,
Okay. So you're living it.
100%.
How did this happen? Go back to your childhood. Where were you born and raised? How did these seeds of becoming a CEO and highly driven technology, all of these aspects, how did it grow into you?
I guess the real answer is, again, it's obviously multifaceted, but I would say if I had to like pinpoint a couple of things, one, my mom had her own company, growing up. I saw my dad work corporate America. Um, I knew the way I learn. I can't really listen to people that, like I have to try. I learn by doing, not by like being told or reading it. Like I have to like, okay, let me see if I can see what this whole thing is. And again, like I just had this weird sense that like anyone can do anything. And, at 17 years old, having traveled with my parents kind of all over, I seen, call it the things, and following the people, aka the Larry Ellisons, Oracle, Bill Gates of the world, dropping out of Harvard, those like those stories, and being like, "Fine, if they can do it, I can do it."
Yeah,
you know and I just, again, it's the classic, what is it, shoot for the moon, land on the mountaintop. Like, again, that's probably what this is more like. I don't know if I'll ever get to that extreme. Again, I won't stop going for it. But again, like at the end of the day, really great parents. My parents put an insane level of confidence in us. I mean, so much so that like no matter what we did, it was like, you're a genius. And I would fault my dad for this, and I've said this 100 times, is like, he's like, as long as you know you're right and you're good looking, go for it. And like literally when we walk in the room today, he's like, I have two brothers and myself. He's like, I can't even look at you. You guys are so insanely good looking. And like I can't, like I can't. Like, and it's like it gives you as a kid a confidence.
yeah,
Like it gives you a confidence, like, oh yeah, like I am, and it's like, it's funny because again, we don't have kids. So seeing my friends who have kids, it's like, how are you going to give confidence to a kid? So even if they go to that dark place, they know enough to pull themselves out of it, right? Like,
yeah,
because again, you do it. You go into college, you start doing weird things. Even in high school, you can do weird things, hang out with the wrong people, but like you have enough of that wherewithal that you were raised in a way where you can pull yourself out of it. And so, yeah, I mean, then the internet came along, for 66 megahertz computer, first one. There was the Gateway Dell, compact years.
yeah,
Put it in a Carta CD or Compton's Encyclopedia CD, saw the cheetah run across the screen, connected to AOL, had the screen name, was like, the internet's the greatest thing in the world. It's
yeah.
basically the oil boom or gold rush of a new generation, and just kind of stuck with it, And so 41 today, and yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean, it's
it.
all at devhub.com/history, at least the company itself.
Yeah,
Because again, I never wanted the story to be he built a tech company and flipped it. It was like he built a tech company, made every single mistake in the book. And what does 61 years of compounded learnings look like for this company?
yeah.
And build it not to flip now because we've just been in it long enough, but build it to like build it for a long time. And so, yeah.
So obviously, as a CEO, you look at other businesses. I mean, it's kind of like sport. There's this rise to prominence. I mean, right, even in Seattle. I mean, you got Gates and Bezos and all these examples. What's your favorite company CEO? rise to prominence? Who is that for you?
Me. I always say, like, you know, again, the first 10 pages of business are written, right? Get your license, da 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 da. And then after that, you're on your own, you know? It's like I feel like, you know, I want to do it my way, like not
Yeah.
how anyone else did it. And so it's like even like you know, as a little our little logo. I mean, even our the way we show up, our merch, like what's the brand actually mean, you know, versus just like a commodity in tech and racing with this arbitrage of investor dollars. Like, can we build like a boutique luxury brand in tech, you know, which again, I don't think has been done. And so hopefully that is more our story, you know, but yeah, no, again, I respect all those people. I just don't, I'm just better looking.
I
So
dig it. You are. So let's do this. What is the motivation for you every day to wake up, to do the job that you do, to do it at a high level, and to evolve as a human being? What is that motivation for you?
it's changed, right? I'm 41. In my 20s, it was 100% about the money. Hate to say that. Which in some respect I would say slowed us down. 30s was the learning about yourself, you know, like what am I actually capable of? You know, and now the beginning of my 40s, it's totally about the impact to our people and customers, you know. And you know, it's like I always now think about what's in it for the customer, what's in it for the person who's picking to join DevHub, what's in it for everyone else, you know, and then trying to align where we're going as a company, where I want to grow to as a person with the people and their motivations. It becomes a lot more fun when you know, somebody wants to actually do interior design. It's like, great, how do I get you, because you're at DevHub today and we're doing what we're doing for the brands we work with, how do I like create a company that gets you to do the thing you want to do? Or we interviewed somebody last week. They're like, I just want to have an island with like 100 cats. I'm like, okay, great. How do we build a company that allows you to buy an island and get 100 cats on it? You know, it's like it's more selfless, right? 20s totally selfless. Buy the things,
Hmm.
you know. 30 was again, I always, even the way I'm talking now, I always was very insecure about that. Like it's too raw because I've seen the pros, you know, like, and I just again, that was a very big insecurity. We hired the interim CEO, we fired him, we had a third founder, we let him go. And we realized like, holy shit, like these people make the same mistakes I would either never make or that if they made them, were not that big of a deal. So it's a lot of those learnings. And again, now 40s is like I would say selfless and about everybody else. And it just becomes a lot more fun when it's, I guess, not about you,
Yeah.
which my 20-year-old self would be like, Mark, you're just full of shit because you have money, you
Right.
know? But it
Yeah.
again, everyone has to learn on their own path. I feel like I tell everyone I'm like the most average of average, right? There's not Mark Zuckerberg, this is Mark Michael. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he just turned 40, I turned 41. Like it's like you have to be on your own timeline, you know.
Yeah.
And it all happened, it all had to happen for the way it happened, you know, in order for me to even be here with you today. And so
Sure. So let me ask you this, in your timeline of your company, what was one of the most seminal events? Whether it was you landed a contract, you got the client, what was that moment?
the pandemic,
Yeah.
it was the pandemic. We're websites, right? Websites have been around since the internet
Yep.
started, right? Like we're like, and I used to hate it. I'm like, the hell are we talking about websites for? You know, like into it's 2020, 2020 at that time, 2021, 2022, 2019, 2024. We're like, the one thing that nobody on the internet shut off, they shut off every other marketing thing that they were doing, cut it by half, cut it by a quarter, shut it off entirely. The one utility that was the most important thing during the pandemic, from appointment booking to online ordering to hours to what's going on, you know, at this brand for real, or what's the statement for my like all the things was the website. I'm like, holy shit, this isn't just a commodity tech thing. It's like actually valuable. And so for us to show up like that, it took the pandemic because
Yeah.
we never really understood our value. We were selling it competitively based on price, versus value. And the pandemic just was like, oh shit, like we are way more valuable
Mm.
than people have put us in the box to be.
Yeah.
And so then that started a chain of events. We acquired a company after that. We decided to go direct to brand because prior to that we were going through partners. And it's honestly, it's been really fun in the last, call it 3, 4 years. It was
So
miserable for 15, 13 years before that.
I bet that was the turnaround. So I'm curious, you steer your clients with your web design and with your product to the right direction. You're almost giving advice. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
It's not going to be your idea that fails, it's going to be you that fails.
Yeah.
That was like a, like I think a lot of people, yeah. And I mean, in there is grit, in there is relentlessness, in there is stubbornness, in there is everything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. I mean, obviously, my default was like, as long as you know you're right and you're good looking, go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the business sake, yeah.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. You can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained. What advice would you give that young version of you, and would that version of you listen?
My I guess what's messed up was in high school, I had written a letter to myself, right? The teacher was going to send 5, 10, 20 years later. And in that letter, they're like, what would you tell your future self? Right? You're 17, 18 years old. And I specifically know what I wrote to myself. The problem was I never paid for the postage. And I don't think that teacher particularly liked me anyway. So I don't think they were willing to pay even the 25 cents or how much a stamp was back then.
Yeah.
But like you were doing everything right, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I dig it. Yeah.
Like just like keep going. I know I wrote that to myself. I still wish Miss Herger, if you're listening to this, if you would send me that letter, if you have it, I know you tossed it. Uh, and sorry for those years, but
Wow, what a great relic to get in the mail if that happened. That would be so cool. So, of all of these things that you've accomplished and evolved into in your life, what are you the proudest of?
like, who is your audience, real quick?
Oh, it runs the gamut. I mean, it's professionals all over the place. It's creatives, it's business minds, it's kind of all over the map.
Can I talk about drugs?
Yeah, are you kidding?
Okay, cool.
I
So
mean, we're in a
again,
legal state here.
got it. Cool. I mean, I know I am. You know, and then, by the way, when I talk about drugs, I'm talking about really just mushrooms at this point.
Sure.
You know, and I'll do it every, call it, few years in a some would call hero dose. And I look at myself and I talk to myself in the mirror, and it's always the same conversation of just like how proud of myself I am, in terms of like I know what's in my heart and mind, and that it's really at this point selfless, and it's good. It's not evil. It's not, it's there's like nothing bad in me. Unfortunately, the bad is how I let it out. Uh I sleep really well because I'm like, well, what about this thing? And like, people are like, what, get confused and they don't understand. Like, are you joking? Are you not joking? It's like I let it out every day, even
Yeah.
what I'm doing with this podcast. This is like, there's no filter of it. And I just truly like believe it, like it helps me as a human being walking around this planet, being at least authentic
Yeah.
to myself. And so, yeah. And I think mushrooms at some level help you understand, because again, the conventional wisdom is like, don't look in a mirror. Um, and I always do. And I'm like, God,
Yeah.
you're doing everything that you wanted to be doing. And it's like, and again, by the way, nowhere near monetarily what it might sound like. Like nowhere. I flew coach back from Chicago yesterday. You know what I mean? Like we're not there.
Yeah,
But yeah, again, just very proud of myself as like
yeah.
as a human on this planet. And again, I will say at some level, yeah, that's it.
I like it. So at the end of the day, you probably already kind of answered this, but I want to just kind of get to the crux of it. Everyone has a perception of you as the man behind this company, family, friends, all of your clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I I guess I would my perception of me is probably not what, like I mean, genuinely, to flip the whole script on this probably whole interview. Again, I think I'm not very smart. I think I'm an idiot. I think that like but the one thing that is like I'm just willing to try. I'm willing to be obvious, ask the dumb questions. Like I don't think I'm particularly talented. My brain is going so fast that I don't have focus. I spent 3 hours. I like going to the airport early yesterday, and I was in O'Hare Airport, and I was just in the bookstore for 2 hours, just like I cannot read anything in this store right now. And
Yeah,
I went and started writing my own book. You know what I mean? Like it's like, um, I had my 40th birthday and it was very, very interesting. Flew a bunch of friends to Mexico, rented out this little boutique hotel, and one of the people was like, "Let's go around the room and say, Mark, you're 40th," and I didn't expect this. Like, what is your impact? And it was always like he's just willing to like try the thing, right? And obviously he's funny, and he, like, and it was just like it was very, very heavy in that moment. I could have probably just died,
yeah,
you know. I was
yeah,
like, the only time you would ever hear that is probably when you're dead anyway. And so I was just like, again, as long as the impact was fun for somebody else without hurting anybody, like I was good. I did well, you know.
yeah.
So
So let me ask you this. If anyone wants to reach out, learn more about your company, hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
I mean, you can just Google Mark Michael Seattle. Everything will come up from Instagram to podcast to LinkedIn to personal website to everything. Maybe even Mark Michael ranks now. I don't know. And yeah,
I like it. Mark Michael, this has been wonderful, man. I love the way you roll, love the way you think. Stay cool and keep doing the good work, man.
thank you, Joe.
Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Cheers.